Hello, welcome to your favorite tech show on television, where we look at issues, trends, developments in the global ICT industry. We also play host to tech innovators, big thinkers, the professionals, and the CEOs who are driving today's tech economy. I'm Don Pedro Agambi, and today we are here at the round table with academia, industry, and other stakeholders organized by the Nigerian Communications Commission and the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. The event has the theme refocusing academic research towards alternative clean energy, panacea to paucity of energy in the Nigerian telecom industry. And the stakeholders are drawn from the various sectors of the economy. The theme of this event is critical to the growth of the telecom industry and the Nigerian economy as a whole. Stay with us. The Nigerian Communications Commission has called for the promotion of regulatory initiative that would encourage the adoption of renewable and ethical energy sources. The Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, Professor Umar Dambata, said this during a roundtable discussion with academia, industry, and other stakeholders in Lagos. Professor Dambata noted that the Commission's plan is to introduce policies that would encourage all telecom operators to adopt clean and sustainable energy sources to reduce carbon footprint. Professor Dambata, who was represented by the Executive Commissioner Technical Services at the Nigerian Communications Commission, Engineer Bale Maska, noted that collaboration, partnership with academia and other stakeholders are required to achieve the Commission's objectives.
We are all aware now that the cost of electricity is high. If you have a generator, the cost of fueling it is equally high. So it makes sense for the Commission to now refocus research towards renewable energy. And there is no better stakeholder to partner with than academia, because these are people who live on doing research. The Commission is hoping to refocus interest in this direction because clearly success in this will certainly make telecom services more affordable and sustainable that will eventually lead to general improvement in all aspects of our lives.
Further stated that the industry is in need of the expertise, knowledge, and insights of academia to guide in developing visible alternative sources of clean energy that the telecom industry can leverage for a sustainable energy supply.
To begin with, we hope that this session will produce some strategies that we will drive to achieve what we want to achieve. So the next thing, hopefully, will be that these strategies will be laid out and roles will be assigned to every stakeholder. In other words, what are the key things here? The researchers are there, they are ready. What do they need? Funding. A market for whatever they eventually come out with. Getting it acceptable and adaptable to our own setup. So clearly the next thing should be the sources of funding. The Commission normally puts out some grants, but like I said in my speech, it isn't nearly enough. So stakeholders need to chip in with funding to ensure that these things are actually worked upon properly. So the next thing should be heading to the labs to start coming up with designs, and then of course actively also sourcing for funding and investors, if you like, but at least funding to produce prototypes. When prototypes are ready, then investors that will invest to make sure that these things are mass produced for general uptake.
The Nigerian Communications Commission is in the process of introducing a policy to encourage ethical energy sourcing in the telecom sector. The policy will serve as a framework for telecom service providers to adopt clean and sustainable sources, reducing their carbon footprint and contributing to a greener future. Panelists at the event focused on the issues, innovations, challenges, and recommendations in sustainable energy in view of unreliable power supply and the rising cost and implementation of efficient clean energy.
Some other policies also includes policies that are enabling for deployment of solar systems to off-grid communities, policies that are able to allow developers like myself to be able to have better implementations of our projects in such communities, so that at the end of the day to also help the telecommunications, because these telecommunications equipment, some of them are in the rural locations too, they are in the last mile communities, and the capex and also OPEX, the operational expenses that is being used to operate other alternative source of energy like the fossil fuel generators is very, very high. So we require policies that gives us soft landings in those cases.
One of the challenges is that our researchers go into research, come up with actionable deliverables, but unfortunately funding becomes very, very difficult. And of course there's also the lack of this kind of initiative before now, where the people that are looking into this issue from the theoretical perspective would need to meet the industry that will eventually use those research initiatives or deliverables.
Funding. That's what we've been hearing all day. What areas would this funding be channeled?
Thank you. You see, whilst it is agreed that there are funding challenges everywhere in the world, but what I think is more important is for us to actually think outside of the box the way that we are doing presently. Because if you have a good idea, fund for the ideas to materialize will be available, because there are all sorts of granting agencies that are in support of good research initiatives.
The initial investment into these things, as we are saying, is very huge, quite huge, but in the long run it will come cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable, especially when you consider what we have today in Nigeria is not as reliable as it should be. But at least this is breeding a kind of landing spot that can give some succor and comfort. But the initial investment is huge, but it's something that I feel can be recouped if allowed to run over time. The challenges of the capital that to be invested, like I said, is huge. Two is space, because this renewable energy we're talking of, you need the ones that are available today in Nigeria. The most common is the commonest is solar. The panels that are required to being able to harness the type of energy we are talking about is enormous in size. So you need space. That is one. Number two, you also need security, because people are getting more and more aware of this. They are being harnessed and being used in other applications. So the demand in the market is becoming higher. These things attract a lot of unwanted guests. In every business, we don't just count losses. There are other advantages that can be used to maybe cover up for the loss in the security, when you talk of security aspect. Like I said, if you use generators, thieves will come for generators. If you use even PSCM, thieves come for cables. If you use alternative energy, now thieves come for batteries. For whichever one, these guys are there with us. So what you do is to find out a way of securing what you have, which is cheaper, which is more difficult for the thieves to go for. Like we said earlier, there are brands of batteries that if you take it away from their locations, you can be able to apply them in any other location. These are inventions that are going on that will help us to at least keep what we have. But whichever way you look at it, renewable energy is more acceptable globally because of the cleanliness. Then it's more cost effective in the long run.
As we hear, a lot of other developing countries or even developed countries, they are doing research on that in this aspect. I have not seen anywhere there's a research on renewable energy as of today in Nigeria. So because we have to localize some of these problems. As somebody rightly said, the battery we are using there, is it meant for our society? The solar panel we are using, is it meant for our society? All the equipment that are using renewable energy, are they made for our society? Made for our environment? So so research needs to go into and know what exactly that our environment requires. So you produce battery. For instance, battery require a lot of cold temperature. So if you don't have enough cold temperature to preserve the battery will degrade within a few years. So why don't we go into research and say, what kind of battery do we need to manufacture and produce that will fit into our system, especially with regard to temperature? So if my battery can go beyond, if it goes beyond 25 degrees and degrade, is it possible to manufacture a battery in Nigeria that can last up to 20 degrees, within up to 30 degrees, and still survive for a long period of years? So these are things we need to follow, because those people, they can buy battery because of environment is cool, they can buy battery and spend 10 years without disposing them, but it's not possible here because of our temperature. So those research need to go into that to know what kind of battery we need that will last for us, instead of spending much at as I've said, the most costly aspect of this renewable energy, especially solar, is battery. If you're able to find solution to this area, everybody can get solar anywhere, and with that we reduce a lot of carbon emission in the environment.
Wow, I'm afraid that's of our time will allow us this week on this highly informative and educative package of your program. We've been here at the round table with academia, industry, and other stakeholders organized by the Nigerian Communications Commission and the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. For comments and observation, you can reach us on the numbers and email now showing on your screen. And on behalf of the entire production crew, thanks for watching. Same time, same station. I'll be back next time. I'm Don Pedro Agambi. I'll see you.